Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Pragya Veneval and I guide people to live their life with awareness of themselves and others so their life can truly represent their essence and be full of fulfillment and purpose. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about some of the common mistakes that I see projectors make in relationship that stop them or hinder them from feeling the kind of success that they can potentially experience. Now, my assumption here for this video is that you are a projector that is properly recognized for who you are and invited into the relationship for who you are. And this video is going to talk about the mistakes that we make after being invited into a relationship, while being in a relationship that is actually correct for us to be in. The first one, and a really, really common one, is assuming that now that you're actually invited into a relationship, that you can guide whenever in that relationship. I think that projectors have to understand the nature of their own aura, the nature of their probing aura, and also have to become very wise about our partner and where they are in their process, because ultimately true guidance can only happen when the other person actually wants to be guided, which isn't all day, every day. So, the first thing that we as projectors need to become really wise about and learn to recognize with a lot of clarity is there really an energetic openness here from the other to be penetrated by us? Is there really space for us to share what we see? Or is this a time where we have to step back and wait for that energetic openness? Because I think when we don't understand timing as projectors, when we try to force awareness on our partner, things can go wrong really quickly. And we can begin to spiral in our own bitterness, which can again make the problem at hand or the situation at hand much worse. Because not only is our partner now dealing with whatever experience they're dealing with, they're also having to deal with our sourness and our bitterness. And it's not because they don't recognize us. It's not because they don't want to be in relationship with us. It's not because they don't want our guidance. But it's just that it's not the right time yet. There isn't really an energetic openness from our partner for us to probe them, for us to ask them, for us to share with them. And that is something that we need to become really good at picking up. I think it's really important as a projector to be highly aware of your role in a relationship and the way that your aura functions in a relationship. Any projector that is recognized and invited into a relationship is invited into the relationship to master the energy of the person in front of them or to master the being in front of them in order to help guide them closer to themselves when they're getting away from their own essence. So, as a projector, it isn't really about, I see this and you have to see it too, or I recognize this and when I share this with you, I'm going to feel so smart or successful. That's not projector success. Projector success is actually not about your success at all or your mind's idea of success. Projector success is about successfully bringing the person in front of you that has recognized you and invited you for your seeing back to themselves. that when they are straying from their own patterns, when they are straying from their own essence, to help them see and to help them recognize and to help them bring awareness to the state of their own being. That is projector success. And if we really understand this as projectors, then waiting for the right time and waiting for that energetic opening, which can sometimes be in the form of, hey, what do you think about this? Or sometimes it can be in the form of physically feeling like now is the time for me to share what I see. If you are a projector that really understands projector success and understands that it's not about you, it's about the other, then you can wait. Then you can really be cognizant of, I don't think actually me sharing what I see right now is going to be helpful to this person. I don't think that the person in front of me is actually receptive right now, and therefore me sharing it is only going to trigger them or trigger me, which is not helpful, right? So as a projector, you have to understand, if you have been properly invited and recognized into a relationship, you don't need to be insecure about your ability to recognize. You don't have to be insecure about being an awareness being. You are an awareness being, and you don't have to prove your awareness. Your only job in a relationship is to master the system that is your person, to have compassion for the person that you are in a relationship with, to be so attuned to their energy that you understand what is right for them to receive right now and what is not, and to wait for the timing when they really, really want that guidance. They really want an opportunity to become aware of something within them. It is not your job as a projector in a relationship to blast your partner with your awareness, especially if you're in a relationship with an energy type, especially if you're in a relationship with someone whose game is not about how much awareness they have and what they recognize and see in the world. Just because you're recognized for your awareness and invited into the relationship for your awareness does not give you the license to disrespect the boundaries of your partner. And also, I think it's really important to understand that a projector that offers their guidance without being invited for it is a projector that needs to also understand and learn to respect who it is they are as beings. Our awareness isn't something that we should be throwing out at the world as if it is something that's not worth anything. Our awareness and our ability to be able to read things is something unique. It's something very powerful. And there's something really beautiful about a projector that recognizes the value of their recognition and really waits to be treated with a lot of respect before they share their awareness. As a projector, you have to understand your awareness is for you. Your guidance is for your partner when they really want it, during which you can share some of your awareness. That's a very different way of showing up in a relationship than what I see is very common amongst projectors. The second common mistake that I see projectors make in relationships is that they take their bitterness really personally, but not seriously enough. And what I mean by this is that as a projector, you are going to experience bitterness come up even in relationships in which you have been recognized and invited properly. Actually, bitterness is just a signpost of you initiating where you haven't actually been invited to share your awareness yet. So there are times when we read the situation incorrectly, or we just really feel the pressure to share our awareness, or our mind is running the show and we really want to prove a point. Maybe not even to the other person most of the time, but to ourselves, that I am worth something, that I do see things, So it is important to understand that as a projector, you are going to experience bitterness in your life, even in relationships that you have been invited in. It's a signpost in your life that you are acting is not self. But the problem that I'm referring to here isn't that we mentally initiate, like, duh. Isn't that we don't read the timing correctly, duh. What I'm trying to say here is that when we do get the feedback of resentment and sourness within ourselves, we blame our partners. We take it really personal instead of taking it seriously enough to check in with ourselves. Did I probe without being invited? Did I really poke my partner when they didn't want to be poked? And if I did, then I think maybe it would be really good for me to take my attention away from the situation. So then instead of getting really sour and manipulating my partner with my sourness, the solution is taking my own bitterness really seriously and knowing that I need to pay attention to something different right now. That it's not like I'm in an incorrect relationship, that it's not like my partner doesn't love me or doesn't recognize me or doesn't want to be with me, but that I actually need to learn to develop a really deep relationship with my bitterness that isn't about blame, that isn't about I'm bitter because you won't listen to me, or I'm bitter because you won't do this for me, or I'm bitter because I don't feel respected. No, actually, I'm bitter because I'm not being myself. I'm bitter because I'm not respecting myself. I'm bitter because I haven't learned the discipline of taking my attention away when it's not being asked for. I'm bitter because I haven't learned the discipline of navigating in the world with my aura, right? And I'm not saying any of this is easy, by the way. I have a lot of compassion for projectors in relationships. I mean, I mess up a lot as well. I have in the past and continue to make some of these mistakes myself, but I think it's important to take responsibility. I think it's important to learn from our mistakes. I think it's important to really be honest with our own selves and ask ourselves, am I expecting someone else to recognize me deeper than I recognize my own self? Am I expecting someone to show up for me in a way that I don't even show up for myself? And I think those are quite confronting questions for a projector, but ones that I think are necessary in order for us to get to a place where we are really empowered in the world as ourselves, where we are really empowered in our relationship as ourselves. I think it's really important for a projector to learn how to take the implosion of bitterness seriously instead of immediately taking it personally. The third mistake that I see projectors making in relationships is that they make their romantic relationship or partnership their only source of recognition in their life. And in some ways, I think it's very natural for a projector to get highly focused on the person in front of them, especially if they end up spending so much time together. Like if you're partners, you're probably living together and you do end up spending a lot of time together. It's very natural for a projector aura to get highly focused on that being. And so, in some sense, the rest of the world just kind of disappears. The rest of the world becomes subdued. It's not of that much importance to the projector because I think projector mastery takes that focus. It does. But I think the biggest mistake that we can make as a projector is to become so highly focused on just that one person that we are fully and completely dependent on them for our recognition. Let's be honest here. Projectors benefit from being recognized for their awareness. Projectors need that in order to feel healthy within themselves. But I think that that's a lot of expectations from just one person. And when we do that, we are signing up for bitterness. For me, especially because I'm also a fourth line, it's so important for me to have friendships in which I feel really recognized, in which I can share my awareness. It's really beneficial for me to have a guidance based business in which people come and seek my awareness in return for recognition. So, for a projector to feel really successful in a relationship, it's not only important that we understand timing, it's not only important that we understand projector success, it's not only important that we have a deep relationship with our bitterness and we take it seriously. It's also really important to have multiple avenues through which recognition comes to us. And again, I understand the constraint of I realize that I need a lot of recognition in my life, and yet I cannot initiate to make that happen. I recognize the constraint of that, and that's not what I'm referring to. There are phases in a projector's life in which they are invited to recognize themselves. And actually, there isn't a lot of recognition coming from the outside world. And I think that's very much part of a projector journey as well. But what I'm pointing to here is when a projector gets recognized and invited into a relationship, that they can begin to ignore the other relationships from which they receive recognition, or at least the priority of receiving recognition from other relationship actually decreases. And I think this is really common in the beginning of a relationship. Like when a projector enters a new relationship, they're exposed to an entirely new being whose patterns they really want to learn, whose patterns they want to master. So, in the beginning, there can be this hyper focus that tends to happen, which I think actually bites the projector in the ass a little bit later in their journey. So, my recommendation is yes, focus on your partner. Yes, learn them like a system. Yes, understand them and be invested in that relationship, but don't lose sight of other investments that you have made previously that are actually really helpful in order to fill your bucket of recognition and success. The fourth common mistake that I see projectors make in relationships is that they hesitate to educate their partners on their nature and their need for recognition. I think that once you do learn that you're a projector and you do learn about the mechanics, there is this tendency to take a big step back and wait for people to show up in the way that we want them to show up. Now, sure, you can teach people about who you are in the way that you conduct yourself through your behavior, in the way that you accept recognition or not, in the way that you live your everyday life. I think there is something to be learned from that for our partners. But I also think it's really important as projectors to communicate with our partners about what we need, about what feels good for us, about what helps us thrive in a relationship. And I think having these conversations actually only reveals how confident you are in who you are, how much you understand yourself, how much you understand your own needs, and that it's important for those needs to be met in order for you to participate in this communion, in order for you to be in this relationship. A lot of projectors think that just because they entered a relationship through recognition and invitation, that they no longer need to communicate what works for them, what doesn't work for them, what's feeling good, what's not feeling good. Nobody, and I mean nobody, can understand your own needs as much as you can. And nobody thinks the way that you do. And nobody is going to understand you unless you understand yourself and stand up for yourself. So, yes, master the system that is your partner, but also do not ignore communicating your needs. Do not shy away from educating your partner on who you are. Don't assume that they should know. Don't assume that they should understand. Communicate openly and give them a real opportunity of interacting with you in a way that feels good for you. And I'll give you a little hot tip here. I find that communicating when I am feeling sour or communicating from an emotionally triggered place isn't always helpful. And I have found the most success in communicating with my partners when I walk through my own bitterness on my own by shifting my attention to something or someone that actually makes me feel successful. And then coming back to having the conversation or coming back to the communication from an empowered place, a place of being centered within myself rather than being really triggered. The fifth common mistake that I see projectors make in a relationship, and actually, I think this is going to be the last one that I discuss in this video, even though I have loads more in my awareness, just because this video is super long. But if you would like a part two, let me know down below in the comments, and maybe I'll make another one. So the fifth common mistake that I see projectors make in relationships is that they say yes to small pseudo invitations in relationships for which they actually don't have a true inner authority. Yes. As a projector, it probably doesn't feel incredibly amazing for you to always be doing activities, to probably be out in environments that you don't resonate with, to be a part of a lot of groups. I mean, it really depends on your individual design. We all have our quirks and we all have things that we resonate to and things we don't resonate to, things we like doing and things we don't like doing. However, what tends to happen with a projector in a relationship is, in order to ensure the most amount of peace or the most amount of satisfaction or the most amount of surprise for their partner, a projector, because they can read that, oh, this is going to make my partner really happy, or this is going to make them feel really good about our relationship. What a projector does is that they override their own authority because they are so invested in the satisfaction or the peace or the surprise of their partner or the success of their partner. And I think this can also lead to a build-up of resentment in relationships, because oftentimes when you continuously make this a pattern, your partner also expects you to say yes to pretty much everything or to things that you've done previously. And all of that energetic depletion or the feeling of not being recognized when out in those situations, or the feeling of I'm in the wrong place with the wrong people at the wrong time, all of this adds up. And it can also lead to a lot of unnecessary resentment towards your partner. Whereas you can just say no to things that are a no for you. And again, communicate about your differences with your partner. As a projector, the more you stay true to yourself in a relationship and educate your partner about who you really are, the more the chances of you feeling like the relationship is a true success. Don't forget about yourself just because you're highly focused on ensuring fulfillment for your partner. Okay, projectors, I hope that this video was of some help to you and will help you take some more responsibility so that you can experience a lot more success in your relationships. If you have anything that you're learning that's in your awareness, I would love to hear about it. Please do leave it down below in the comments, or I'll see you in the next one. Bye.